nobody has ever seen what we saw last night on Monday Night Football. So much talk today about how the situation was handled. As long as you've been covering the league and all the people that you know in the league office, what was your assessment of how the NFL handled it last night?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'll start with if you're going to have happen what happened to Damar Hamlin last night, that's the great place to be. Let's start with that. We're at him 25 seconds after the hit happened, and he was provided the best medical care and the best chance possible in this whole scenario. So from that standpoint, A plus plus plus, however high you can go, just handled it brilliantly, and they have given him a chance, those first responders, and kudos to the medical personnel that these teams have at stadiums, and they aren't needed much, thankfully, and hopefully we never see this again, but you see when they are needed, how valuable they are, and how much they give players who are in need of life-saving procedures a chance to live. And so that to me is number one on the list, period, in the story. Beyond that, I don't really care what happened. Like, I just want this guy to recover and get back and take it. Was there a delay in it? Yes. But, all those things, we don't know what was playing out. They certainly didn't want the crowd, as they're trying to get the ambulance out of the stadium and all those sorts of things, to crowd the parking lots and not be able to get family and people they needed to get to the hospital to get to the hospital. I'm sure that was one consideration that none of us have thought about. But what went on after that, I don't know. The right decision was made to call the game. Did it take too long to do that? Again, I don't know. I wasn't there present for all those discussions, and I'm sure it had to go through the Roger Goodell. It had to go through the Players Association. It had to go through the officials. It had to go through the teams and the coaches and all those sorts of things. So I wasn't privy to all those things that happened. And to me, I don't really care, honestly. I just want Damar Hamlin to recover and be able to live a healthy and full life. And I'm very appreciative of what those first responders did last night. It was truly amazing that he has a chance now to make it. And I know we're all thinking about him and praying for him and hoping he pulls through this thing. There's still a long way to go. He's not out of the woods. There's still a long, long way to go. But I think every hour that passes, we're just grateful that it's still in critical condition is not a bad thing, I guess, is what I'm saying. So every hour that passes is, to me, kind of moving you forward toward the recovery process, I hope.
Yeah, I think we all hope that, Charean, for sure. And, we, like you, want to hear that he's going to be okay and survive and be able to live a full life. I mean, 24 years old, that's incredible. But I want to ask you this, and this may be impossible to answer right now, and I think we're all speculating as we wait to hear what is going on with this young man. But what do you think the NFL is thinking now as far as moving forward? As of now, they haven't canceled Week 18 games for either one of those teams. What do you think the thought process and what's going on right there?
Well, honestly, I think a lot depends on his condition, and they're going to be privy to where he is in that recovery process, and what it looks like. And I think if it looks like he's going to pull through and be okay, then I think they go ahead and play the games. And if it looks otherwise, or there's a question, I do think you have to move the games back. And it, it's not something you want to do. I get that, but you do have that bye week in there, the week between the championship games and the Super Bowl, the off week, where the Pro Bowl is, and you could just scrap the Pro Bowl. It was going to be a flag football game anyway, and you play the championship games on that weekend if you have to. But I don't know yet that those decisions have been made. Right now, they've made no changes to that schedule. But again, I think a lot depends, frankly, on his condition and where he is day by day, hour by hour. And they have a better feel for that. Even if he's in critical condition, you have an idea of whether he's going to pull through or it's still touch and go, or where he is in that critical process that we're not going to be privy to. But I do think it's a really good sign if they go on and play the games, because that tells me that they feel like that he's on the road to recovery. It's going to be a long recovery, but he's on that road. So I think that would be a really good sign if they proceed with that. Now, How much are the Bills going to be affected by this? I would think an awful lot. I don't know how they're going to turn around and practice and play and do all those things this week, but that's secondary, as you said. I mean, right now their thoughts obviously are on Damar Hamlin, and maybe they go out there and play a great game and do it for him and play great for him. But I don't think anybody knows where that. I don't even think the NFL knows right now where that stands. I know they've had all those discussions. They've probably thrown out a million scenarios, and I also don't know what is the latest that they could say. We want to this week or postpone this week or whatever the case may be. And the same with the Bills-Bengals game, which is a big game. At what point do they say, here's what we're going to do with this game? And I think it's an hour by hour, day by day thing. And I know they want to get beyond today to see how Damar Hamlin is tomorrow, and maybe get a better feel. I don't know. It may be the same thing, and they may have some really hard decisions to make as the week moves on.
Charean Williams from Pro Football Talk joining us here on the Blitz. Charean, kind of a odd question as I try to think about phrasing. I do feel like last night the players and the coaches said we're not going to continue this game, and the NFL ultimately had no choice but to postpone the game. How much say do you think the players and coaches will have in whatever decision the NFL makes as it regards to the Bills and Bengals?
Oh, yeah, I think they're going to have a big say in that. And yes, there was no way they, whatever, I know what Troy Vincent said. The Bills and Bengals were not going to play that game last night. That was obvious. And it was the right move. And I do think the upper level of the NFL was in agreement with that from the start. Now, somewhere in there, something got squirrely. I understand there's protocols, and I think somebody was probably just say, here's what we do in this situation. We're not realizing or processing the gravity of the situation. But yeah, it was obvious those players weren't going to play. And a lot of that, as you said, I think really depends on the Bills and Bengals and their feelings about playing this game and when do you play it? I mean, that's the other part. If you don't push everything back, when do you play this game? And I, again, don't know the answer to that. Do you just move the playoffs back? Do you have them play a Week 19 game and just push the playoffs back? Tough questions. Do you just scrap the game? And they were ready to scrap some games in 2020 for COVID, and they ended up playing those on odd days, on some Tuesdays. But in this situation, you've got to do right by the players. You got to do right by particularly the Buffalo Bills, but the Cincinnati Bengals too, and their feelings on the situation and if they want to resume this game or not. And I think that they're going to have a big say in that. Absolutely.
Boy, it's such an unprecedented time and decisions that have to be made. All right, I've got to ask you, Charean, because I know that Cowboys will be playing this week, playing the Washington Commanders. Do you play everybody? I know Jerry said earlier today, yes, we're going to go for it. But what do you do?
Oh, absolutely. I'm playing, and at least until I know that the Eagles have that game in hand, because you're playing for the division title. Yeah, absolutely. I play all out, full out, all my starters, and try to win that game, to try to win the division. You want to win the division. You want the home game the first week, and all those sorts of things, and a chance maybe to get the NFC Championship game in your own stadium. So absolutely, you got to play this game all out, full out. And I've never been one to sit players anyway. It's the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick philosophy. If you go back and look at their history, now they had a lot of buys, I get, because they won the division a ton of times. They were the number one and at that time or number 2 seed, where they got the next week off. But if you go back and look at their history, and they had the division clinched, which a lot of times they had it clinched early, they would always play the starters. Tom Brady would play in the final week of the season, most seasons. And so that's their philosophy, is don't get rusty. Let's play. Let's play to win. Let's go out there. Let's keep it fresh. And they did that, and it worked for them an awful lot of years. So I'm always the philosophy of, maybe you don't play them a full game. I get that, but a half. But in the Cowboys' particular instance, with the Eagles playing at the exact same time, I'm scoreboard watching. I'm playing hard. They're playing at least a half. If the Eagles are up 21, 24, 28, somewhere in that, when you feel like they have that game in hand, then yeah, I'm probably pulling Dak Prescott, protecting him, and maybe a couple other guys and protecting them, Tyron Smith maybe, and get those young guys too some snaps as you go forward. But the Cowboys will have to have a lead. and the Eagles will have to have a big enough lead that you feel comfortable in both of those scenarios. You don't want to give up the division title by throwing people out there and just saying, we're just going to settle for the 5th seed and, we can go in Tampa and win. No, you want a home game. You want the division title and all that comes with that.
Charean Williams from Pro Football Talk joining us here on the Blitz. She's on Twitter at NFL Charean. And when you read her Twitter bio, it says 28 seasons covering the NFL. And since you just mentioned Tom Brady, and I want to end on a little bit lighter of a note, Charean, are you familiar with the term tutties?
Oh.
Thank you, Charean.
So Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they call touchdowns tutties. And, Reinagel was not sure why Washington's new mascot is called Major Tutty because he had never heard the term before.
Got it. Now it makes perfect sense, right? Okay.
Well, it's a creepy looking mascot with a weird name, but I'm trying to figure out, is Tutty a common name?
It's an ugly mascot and it's a terrible name. Both of those. It's the worst mascot in sports. Which is saying something.
Well, it couldn't happen to a better team, Charean, okay? So that's good.
That's true.
But you have not heard some of the little clips and stuff with Tom saying tutties?
I had not.
I had not either, Charean. I had not either, Charean. So just thank you. And most people haven't. Only people, Minix is the only guy that's ever heard
and James Pledger, and apparently enough have. They've named the mascot after it. I'm just a little taken aback that while it's not a term that has obviously become common because most of us think it's stupid and stupid sounding and weird to say, but it's out there. And Ryan hadn't heard of it. You haven't heard of it. I'm surprised, honestly.
Well, I was going to say, but I also still haven't tried a taco at Dairy Queen, so there is that.
You're missing out, Charean.
No, she's not. It's right up there with Tutties. Charean, always appreciate the insight, appreciate the laugh at the end. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. The great Charean Williams on Twitter at NFL Charean.
She just got greater in my book.
Because she hasn't tried the Dairy Queen tacos?
No, because she hasn't heard of tutties. And that's mother football.
It is mother football.
If she hasn't heard of it, I think you and Pledge are in some secret little boys club.
Dude, it's Tom Brady. It's Aaron Rodgers.
You two guys.
It's Dan Snyder naming his damn mascot Major Tutties.
Rob Gronkowski.
Again.
Pledge, throwing Gronk in there doesn't really help the argument.
It really doesn't.
I mean,
and then little Danny Snyder doesn't help the argument either.
He made the mascot.
Well, exactly. Dude, y'all are the only 5 people that have ever heard of the word tutty. Dude, I'd squash it now before somebody laughs at you.
It's a mascot. You can't squash it at this point.
I'm just talking about mentioning the word at all, period. Tutty.
If Tom Brady calls them tutties, it must be cool. That's obviously what Danny Snyder was thinking.
I'm not calling it tutty. Man, that's probably why Giselle left his behind.
He
went home and said,
wait a minute.
I had 2 tutties today.
Hold on. You did what? I think we've got a tampering case in the National Football League.
Maybe.
I think little Danny Snyder knows that Carson Wentz is not a long-term answer at quarterback.
Right.
Tom Brady's going to be a free agent. A man that loves tutties would want a tutty mascot.
Well,
maybe that's little Danny Snyder's way of getting Tom Brady to DC.
Huh. Well, if that's the only way you can do it, Tom's not going to Washington. Are you kidding me?
The fact that you thought about it for a minute.
I did.
That you thought I was being serious.
Dude, let me tell you something.
That's a tutty for me.